Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 81, 5 Big Benefits to Using Podcasts in Your Classroom. So today we are going to be talking about the benefits of using podcasts in your classroom. This is especially powerful and important for blended learning classrooms. We don't know what it's going to look like going back to school in the fall, and we are doing the best we can to integrate technology that's meaningful, that we can also use in our classroom in person, and that we can use when we are at a distance. So I hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Debery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Debery.
Hey, so this week we are going to talk about podcasting, or actually podcasts, not even podcasting, but podcasts in the classroom. And I don't want to skip past what we talked about last week, which was really, really important. And we talked about the Black Lives Matter movement in education and what that means to be an ally and what it means to be anti-racist. And I still feel very strongly about that. And I don't think we can be quiet about it. I think we have to keep talking. Unfortunately, I didn't hear from anyone that wanted to come and speak about that. I would love to have you if you would like to share your story. I'd love to, put out, send out your voice and your message into the world. And I know for me that I am continuing reading the White Fragility, which has been very eye-opening, and also plan to watch 13th this weekend, which is a documentary on Netflix. I will share the link to that in the show notes. It's also available on YouTube for free right now. But I also want to get back to some important things about what's coming for the school year, because I know that this is most people are either finishing, they've completely finished, and they are trying to get some rest. So I hope you are getting some rest. I hope you're taking your break, and right now maybe you are laying out by the pool and you are actually getting to recharge, because it's important for you to do that, because we have no idea what we're going into next year, which is very anxiety inducing for many people. So I want to spend some time in the next couple of weeks really sharing some best practices and some strategies that we can use in our classroom and in our blended learning classrooms, because that's the talk for a lot of different states. I know my governor in the state of Florida, I'll keep all comments to myself. He is wanting us to go back at full capacity. And I don't know if our district, but he is letting the districts decide. So I don't know if our district is going to go for that completely. And I'm not, I don't know how I feel about that. I'll probably keep that part to myself. But so we're making decisions and everyone's trying to figure out what we're going to do. There's a lot of talk of blended learning, but I know my district doesn't want to lose out on funds to Florida, I just said it, Florida Virtual School. And, when you lose funding to these virtual schools or magnet schools or other types of homeschool things, then, schools start panicking about that, and they want to provide online education as well. So that's what they have basically promised parents, although I'm curious to see if they're working on instructional design and putting together some really quality online learning, like an online learning environment. We have a learning management system called Schoology, and it works really well. But a lot of people have not been trained in instructional design or even in learning theories, for that matter. You might have gotten a little bit of that in your education programs. Hopefully, you got a lot of it, and you've read some, lots about it. But it's different. It's different in an online world, as we all have seen through crisis schooling is basically what I feel like we were doing. So now, if we're talking about this going forward, and this may be an issue for a while to come, then we've got to figure out how to deliver best quality, high quality online learning. And it is completely possible. I got my master's in 2011 from Full Sail, and which was not a primary education program. Like they had one education program. I'm not even sure they have it anymore. They're mainly like into arts and people that end up getting Grammys and Academy Awards and all those kind of things have gone to school at Full Sail, but it was such an incredible program. I'm so thankful for it. It's definitely one of the best experiences of my life, and it was all online. And I didn't just walk away with a master's degree and as a salutatorian. I walked away with people that I still am friends with on Facebook and have watched their children grow, or could reach out to today if I needed to, and they would still be there because we worked as a community, as a group. So we worked hard to have an online community. It is essential when you are doing an online program or online learning and teaching. So that's something to keep in mind. So it is really, really important. And I know we want to do a much better job than being thrown into it overnight. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And I want to share, before I even get started, on the 5 benefits of using podcasts in your classroom, especially for your blended classroom. I want to share something exciting that is coming, because we just started to announce it on Monday, and this show is coming out on Thursday. And so I can tell you a little bit. I can hint around at some things because it's a really exciting thing that is coming. So, we very often think about, when we're talking about teaching, we're talking about, we're often like really focused on our subjects, or we're focused on specific content areas. And sometimes we talk about the whole child, but what about the whole teacher? Like, what about all of you, all parts of you, and what you do in your day and all the things that you reach and, touch on? So it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy to think that we might actually focus on the whole teacher. And I know that many of you have just finished school, or maybe you're again, working through those last few days of the year, and it's going to feel really early to even think about this, but later this summer, you'll be ready. You'll be totally ready. And I couldn't wait to tell you about this professional development that you're going to want to check out, especially if you are a teacher of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Now, I know that I've spent a lot of my life and education in the primary grades, mainly 2nd grade. And I have to tell you, as a 2nd grade teacher for a very long time, let's just say a long time, I think I've told you, for 17 years, but most of them were in 2nd grade. Some of them were in 1st grade too. And I worked as a media specialist with all grades. And then I worked as a student sports specialist with all grades. And I'm going back to the media center with all grades. So I, have gotten a good chance to work with and teach 4th and 5th graders. So, but as a 2nd grade teacher, I always felt hesitant to be lumped into K-1-2, because being at the end of that frame, I'm like, I totally got what I needed to do for my kiddos that were struggling or needed some of that foundational work, like phonemic awareness and phonics and like that kind of work. But I always was like, okay, give me some information on what I do with my kids that are on or above grade level. Because I had a lot of friends that requested me, and I had their children, and I felt very, I don't want to say pressured, but like responsible for making sure that those kids had just of a powerful education as my kids that I had to work, extra hard with to get them where they needed to go. I think we have to, give everybody what they need, but I think our kids that are on grade level or above grade level, they sometimes need a lot more than what we're able to give them sometimes. So I was always like, give me the information on 3rd grade. Give me what they do in 3rd grade. Let me understand 3, 4, 5, because that's what they're going towards, that's what they're moving to. So if I was a 2nd grade teacher, I would still want to know this information. All right, so this PD, let me tell you a little bit about it because it is called the Whole Teacher Eclecticon 2020. Eclecticon. I always say that wrong. Eclecticon. Why I can't get that. So maybe I need to repeat some vocabulary words. Eclecticon 2020. So the Whole Teacher Eclecticon 2020, and it is going to be July 27th through the 31st. Can you believe that? It's all those days of learning, and I'm excited to share. And I am offering a special deal when you sign up to, I'm going to call it WTE, so that you can remember it. WTE. When you sign up for this professional development through me, you are going to get my full bundle of exit tickets for podcasting. So there you go. When your kids are listening to podcasts and you want to assess their ability to determine the main idea or the author's purpose, or, a perspective in a storytelling podcast, or you want them to focus on vocabulary, I have exit tickets for all those standards, and I am giving that bundle away, which, makes it totally worth it. I'm giving that bundle away for free when you sign up through me for the Whole Teacher Eclecticon 2020. And you do that by going to bit.ly.com backslash, I almost said backsplash, I always say that, or maybe it's /. I get that confused too. WTE Deboree, DEBOREE. So WTE DEBOREE. So I hope that you'll join through me. You can also grab that in the show notes, and you will get access to all this amazing PD, and you will get my bundle for podcast exit tickets. Now, we know that great teaching is about so much more than just the academics. When was the last time that your PD acknowledged that teaching the whole child starts with nourishing the whole teacher? So I've teamed up with some amazing team presenters, and I told you that when I did STEMCon. Well, guess what? Some of those same people are there. I'm so excited. And that's who's hosting this awesome PD is Carrie Tracy again, and she's amazing. And there's so many more amazing presenters. And we are offering an incredible 60 plus training sessions on topics including all academic content areas, culturally responsive teaching, arts integration, social emotional learning, special education, educational technology, avoiding burnout, tools to help you in the regular classroom and with distance learning, and more. Can you believe that? And while we focused the academic content sessions largely around grades 3 through 5, you'll find there's a lot of content that applies across all grade levels. If the session list resonates with you, please join us. All are welcome. You can see a full session list, and you can find a description at bit.ly.com WTE Deboree, and that will give you all that you need to see. So it's pre-recorded. There are pre-recorded sessions with that are going to be shared over a period of time, July 27th through the 31st. And we will also host live sessions and panels, and it's a great way to connect with teachers around the world. I'm telling you, the STEMCon was so incredible, and the energy that was in that group was amazing. And what a way to start school. So I think it is definitely just an incredible experience. And like I said, I have extra news, and that's that you will get for free my bundle of informational and storytelling podcast exit tickets. So I hope that makes the deal even sweeter. And I just want to let you know that. And you will get that when you register at bit.ly.com WTE Deboree, and I'll put it in the show notes, and you can come on and join the fun. It's going to be unbelievable. It's really, truly an amazing experience. All right. So now that I've told you about that exciting piece of news, I want to jump into what we're going to talk about today, and that is the 5 big benefits of using podcasts in your classroom. I think especially during this time of blended learning, this is really important. So one of the benefits of having, using podcasts in your classroom is that you have access to content. It is available 24 hours a day. I know, 24 hours a day. You can you can find content that has just been released, which I think that's really amazing. Like, think about what information that is giving your students and how much content you have available. And I know very often when our kids are struggling, sometimes we can't find text that's accessible for those students. And when we're using a podcast, it's accessible to all because they're listening to it. So it's really great for listening comprehension. So that is the benefit number one. Benefit number two is the consistency of content. That's the other great thing. Often when we're getting like a new reading series, we have to wait for 5 or 7 years before they do a new one. And you're not getting new content regularly. With a podcast, you're getting new content most likely every week. Some podcasts do it every other week, but they are usually on a consistent schedule, which is the really cool part of that. So that's a really important benefit. So that's benefit number two. Benefit number three, it gives kids access to text and information. I love that part. That's where we really can capture all learners. They have an opportunity to actually hear the story or actually hear the information. And a lot of times you will find kid podcasts that will be told by kids, and that can make it even more beneficial to students because they're learning from one another, and they often do like to learn from one another. So I think that is really important. So it's really giving them, that equal access. And I think that's vital. And you can find it from a variety of different backgrounds. And like we've been talking about Black Lives Matter, you can find podcasts that are specifically created by people of color, and kids can hear from a variety of perspectives. And I think that is so crucial. And it's really easy to share in a learning management system, the link to the podcast, or sometimes you can even upload them, but I think it'll probably be easier to share the link to the podcast, and you're creating your content in your, Google Classroom or Schoology or whatever you're using, and you're linking to the podcast and they're listening to the audio, and then they have a chance to respond to that. Or they could use an exit ticket, and with the this bundle, I think I gave you the digital version, which makes this even easier. So then you can assign an exit ticket, and then they're being accountable for their thinking, which I think is pretty cool. All right. Benefit. What was that? Benefit number 3. So benefit number 4 is it's engaging, and kids can move around while they listen. That is so cool. All right. So let me talk about that, because there's a podcast called I think it's the Walking Classroom, and it was created in order to let your kids walk and move around. So I think that can be really, those kids that have a hard time sitting still, can be really powerful for them. I wanted to share specifically 3 new podcasts that I just recently found while I was searching for a really great podcast, because I do have a list of really great podcasts, and I'll link to that in the show notes as well, because that is full of, and you get that in the bundle too. You actually get that in the podcast bundle, because I give you some really great informational podcasts and some really great storytelling podcasts. So that will help. But I found 3 more that are not on my list. And I thought, hey, wait, these are really cool. So I want to share them with you. I want to share a bit of the description, because I haven't listened to 2 of them. And I'm like, oh, I'm totally listening to these. I'm totally using these with my 4th and 5th graders, because they sound like they might be for a little bit older kids. And I thought, oh, these sound perfect. So one of them is called Mars Patel, The Unexplainable Disappearance of Mars Patel. I mean, the unexplainable disappearance. And it's got a picture, like a shadow kind of picture of this kid with his backpack. Ooh, so that sounds crazy, doesn't it? And it is a scripted podcast for middle grade kids. So middle grade, I don't know if they're talking about middle school or they're talking about middle, elementary school, but I'm thinking that they probably are talking more about middle school kids, which is why this might be better for like the older elementary, which could be 4th or 5th grade. But it is fun. It's high quality. It's a serial mystery. And I love mysteries because I think kids are inferring on accident. They have no idea that they're even inferring because they're gathering these clues and this evidence. And I think teaching with mysteries that's one of my favorite. I have a unit actually on teaching with mysteries for 2nd grade, and I'm going to link to it in the show notes because you might find it very beneficial and helpful. We talk about vocabulary like red herring and, the evidence and the suspect and things like that. And then I recommend some great mysteries, and it's really fun. So I'll link to that in the show notes, but this is a mystery, and like I said, it's a serial mystery that can be described as Goonies meets Spy Kids meets Stranger Things. And it's for 8 to 12-year-olds. So it is perfect for our upper elementary kids. So I'm excited about that. It was voted as one of the top 50 podcasts in 2016 by The Guardian and was recently honored as a Peabody Award winner. It does have a ton of awards to it, which I think is pretty cool. Like best audio and drama and best sound design and original music score, which I don't know. I love that. So it has all these like awards next to it. So that's pretty cool. So I think that would be a really fun one to do, because think about some of the standards that you could cover listening to, to a mystery, to a story, and not to mention how that's engaging and will grab kids in. Another one that I think I might have this on a list. I'm not sure. It's called But Why, a podcast for curious kids. But Why is a show led by kids. That kids ask questions and they find answers, and it's a big, interesting world out there. Oh, but why? They tackle large topics, large and small, about nature, words, and even the end of the world. Wow, that sounds kind of thrilling. So that's pretty exciting. So there's just a wide range of topics such as natural science, poetry, space, history, and civics. And students are invited to call or write in with their questions during each show, and our guests will answer as many as they can. I thought that's pretty cool. So that sounded really interesting as well, because kids are very curious, and so I think that can be highly engaging. And then the last one that I want to share today is called Eleanor Amplified. And this one I'm pretty sure I have recommended before, but listen to the like description of this. I think it sounds exciting. Buckle up. Your car is headed for adventure. Eleanor Amplified is a radio adventure series for the whole family. Listen together as world-famous radio reporter Eleanor foils devious plots, outwits crafty villains, and goes after the big story. Eleanor's pursuit of truth takes her into orbit, out to sea, through a scary jungle, and even to the halls of Congress. Like all the public media shows you love, Eleanor Amplified is entertaining and informative. Eleanor defends the very values you expect from high-quality journalism: the importance of access to information, being inclusive of different points of view, telling the truth, and more. Eleanor will spark laughter and conversation with the whole family will enjoy, while preparing kids to appreciate journalism and make smart media choices in the future. I'm totally using this in the Media Center 100%. It sounds like the perfect thing to do. So if you are a STEM teacher or a media specialist, or even if you have a classroom, I think this one sounds so good. All right. And the last benefit of using podcasts in the classroom is benefit number 5. People are known to listen for longer periods of time than they will read, even kids. Isn't that unbelievable? I remember when I first learned that, and I got to see this really cool graphic. And I actually do that in my session. I show you that graphic in my session, which is School of Podcasts for it's Podcasting School for Teachers. And so that is my session at Eclecticon 2020. I'm just going to say WTE, like the whole teacher Eclecticon 2020. And I do a session on Podcasting School for Teacher. No, what am I talking about? It's what is it? Podcast School for Teachers. I don't don't know why I'm having a hard time remembering my session, but it's all about, benefits of using podcast in your classroom. We talk some more about that. I also talk about how to podcast like in your classroom and how to like produce it and set it up with your kids and let them, produce a podcast, which is really cool. So if you want to hear more about that, then come join us. That is just one of the sessions that will be available. But anyway, so one of the graphics that I ended up sharing in my session is talking about they're known to listen for longer periods of time. And they will give you like 5 to 7 minutes of reading something, which I think is pretty I'm like, that's pretty spot on, especially when you're talking about kids building stamina for independent reading. Like it takes a little while in second grade. I hope they get better in third grade and fourth grade and fifth grade. I don't know how much time, teachers are able to give kids to read. I used to strive for 45 minutes because then I could also do small groups while my kids were independently reading, and they usually had some kind of response to reading and then they jumped into independent reading. So they had at least 20 to 25 minutes of like strong independent reading. Talk about like, it just helps massively because kids need to practice those skills and they need to build, grow their muscles in reading. But that's a whole nother story. Anyway, so 5 to 7 minutes on average, people will usually give you. They will give you less than 3 minutes, I think it is, on YouTube, which I thought was crazy. And I'm like, well, that makes sense because I watch my teenage son and he's like, going from one video to the next. I don't even know if he finishes at half the time. And then it was like less than a minute on social media. And you think about kids just scrolling, swiping, scrolling, whatever. They're like not into something for really long periods of time. And then you look at podcasts, which people say on average, people will listen for up to 30 minutes, which is incredible. And if you're still here, it's 26 minutes, and I appreciate you sticking around. So I'm going to wrap it up because we're getting to the end of when people usually will listen. So those are the 5 benefits. So again, I'm going to repeat them. Content is available 24 hours a day. Consistent content is available. Kids get access to text and information. They're engaging. You can allow kids to move around, and also people are known to listen for longer. So hopefully those are some reasons that you would consider using podcasts in your classroom. Now you could actually have it playing in your classroom, and you could also assign it from a distance so that kids are able to listen. And that would be like maybe even one less video that you had to make of a read aloud, because you'd have somebody that was actually reading or talking where the kids would have to listen, and you could assess listening comprehension. So just some thoughts. Okay, well, next week we'll be having I'm going to be featuring a presenter on the show for the next many, many weeks, because I'm telling you, this conference is going to be unbelievable. If it was anything like STEMCon, which blew me out of the water, then I think it's going to be, and there's so much more actually in this whole Teacher Eclecticon 2020. I really think it's going to be an incredible value, and it's going to be the perfect timing right before you go back to school, so you can get all excited and like ready to go. And again, if you sign up under me, you get my bundle of informational podcast exit tickets and storytelling exit tickets, and that is at bit.ly.com WTE Debery. So hopefully you find that's also in the show notes. For now, this one tired teacher is feeling kind of geared up. I'm excited. I hope you are too. Until next time, sweet dreams and sleep tight.